This week, we have got a very special guest, Craig Davis. And, you know, some guests I know really well, some guests Kirk knows really well. Craig, we've been friends. Both of us have been friends with you for quite some time. I've known you since the beginning of us being AEs, rival AEs together way back in the day. But first of all, thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited about where we're going to go here.
I'm pumped, man. I'm so honored that you guys had me on. This is awesome.
Well, the only thing that potentially got you off the list was the fact that you moved to California and turned to the dark side, so we couldn't have you live in studio. But we got over that, and we were able to get past that. We're not mad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I got many comments about that too. I'll be in studio.
Well, I got to know you also back in your AE days when I was with First Horizon, and then we just our careers kind of paralleled each other a little bit, moving on from there, and our Alpine Pinnacle days and all that fun stuff. So we're eager to hear more about your story and get into what makes Craig Craig.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, well, in fifth grade, yeah, I mean. You know, like, so I went to school at Arizona State. I mean, I sort of like, let's just start there, right? I went to school at Arizona State, and then I actually packed my Jeep, moved up to Portland, Oregon to go crash on my brother's couch. And that's how I landed in Portland, you know, and I actually started my career as a financial planner, got my Series 7, all that, and sort of immediately like, I don't think I want to do this. And so then I started a company called First Franklin. And I just did data input to start there. I said, all right, I just need, and this is good for anybody listening, especially earlier in your career. My interview was really, I just want a foot in the door. That's it. Put me in the most remedial job. I'll take it from there. And within 6 months, I went from data input to being a loan account manager to then being an AE within that year, to being, in President's Club within that first year as well.
What year was that?
Well, I'm sorry, that was at First Franklin.
What year?
Oh gosh, 2001.
Okay.
Was when I started, yeah. And I mean, it was, that was like, again, you want to talk about moments in life. That promotion to become an AE was like one of the greatest moments in my life. I was just like, oh my gosh, I found it, my career. Like, I was so excited. And I loved that career, which I did for 10 years.
Fascinating you say that. It's an interesting story. My son went the opposite direction. He was in the mortgage business for a hot minute. And now he works at Fisher Investments, got his series, whatever licenses. But from the outside looking in, the financial services industry has a bit more prestige and chutzpah than the mortgage world. And yet you found so much joy and satisfaction and weren't necessarily thriving in what you were learning about that world, and you chose to make this move. What were some of the triggers or indicators in that experience that led you to mortgage and away from a pretty highly regarded field?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And here's the real reason. Because I got hired by the wrong company. And I was put into the boiler room and all that stuff. So it wasn't like making cold calls, all that. No problem. In fact, my niche was I went and called on schools and teachers to help them with their 403B plan. If I remember, that's the right number. That's their equivalent of a 401k. That's all good. But when I found myself in someone's manufactured home, 65-year-old lady talking to her about a financial plan, I said, this doesn't feel right. And what they were, and so that's when I said, okay, this isn't right. It doesn't feel right. It's not sitting right. I need to make a change. And of course, I've had some changes throughout my life and my career that I can fall back on. That was one of those first moments. And that's when, and my brother, Scott, who you guys know, is then who introduced me to Brant Hulse, who hired me into First Franklin.
So Boiler Room came out, I want to say 98-ish, 98, 99. It is funny that you brought that up because I do remember at the time I walked into a mortgage company that had a copy of Boiler Room on every desk. And everybody there was in their 20s. Everybody there was wearing suits. They had a place that they kept their appraiser in the basement that they could just dial up whatever appraisal amount they wanted. And these were mortgage guys. But it is interesting that as that's happening, some people held on to that like, yeah, let's be Boiler Room, really rich young guys wearing suits. And you were like, this doesn't feel good at all. Like your ethics kind of got in the way.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I don't think I've even thought of it like that. It was just simply, this isn't right. And again, I wasn't knocking anybody else down. I'm saying this isn't right for me. It just doesn't feel right. I don't see myself. I didn't have vision with it.
There's so much to unpack in there. How old were you at this time?
26, 27.
So you're a young man, a really young man. And
I'm very wise beyond my years, as you guys know.
well, duh. Yeah. I mean, that goes without saying. But what an extraordinary experience to be able to have that gut reaction and then pay attention to it. Because so many people would have looked, well, financial services, I already took the test. I got my license. I need to just push through this. And then there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow and I can get there. To have enough, self-awareness to say, wait a minute. And I love the way you clarified it. I'm not saying it wasn't right in like a global ethical moral sense. It wasn't right for Craig. And therefore I am.
And I'll even add on that. Let me peel this back a little bit further, because this again, you guys are opening up some memories here. Before I got into that space, right? Post college, I ski bummed for a couple years in Lake Tahoe. Loved it. My 20s were great, by the way. I loved my 20s. Mm-hmm. Ski bummed. I backpacked across South America. I backpacked across Africa, Europe. I was doing a lot of writing. I was very like in tune with like, I'm 20, whatever, from 21 to 25. I was living this sort of adventurous life. And I worked at a summer camp called the 𝗪𝗵𝗶𝗴 up in the mountains every summer with fellow college friends, and did that for 6 years. I was a cook, like just having a great time in my 20s. And like I said, then, all right, it's time. I think I want to get my feet on the ground, right? I remember thinking to myself, I can keep doing this, but I'm going to wake up and be 40 one day. And I don't know if I want to wake up and be 40 one day and still live in that kind of nomadic lifestyle, which, by the way, was great. Not knocking it. But so I want to get my feet on the ground. That's what led me to, all right, I'm going to pack my Jeep, move up to Portland, crash with my brother, and then figure it out. And this is also coming off the heels of, as you guys remember, kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, the dot-com bust. I'm from the Bay Area, so San Francisco is a really not a great place to kind of be moving into. So those were sort of the things. So anyway, that's my long story short to say, well, I was in tune with I didn't know what I wanted, but I know I wanted to do what I want. And I did not want to get into a career. I felt like, and that was that feeling in that boiler room scenario where like, I don't want the rest of my life to be this. So I think that's where I was more in tune with myself and sort of my gut, because I just spent the last 5 years on adventure. But, that's not easy, by the way. Backpacking across South America is not easy. There is a lot of, like we were just saying before, embracing the struggle as you go through that. That's not a vacation, it's venture, right? As you look at, many adventures, I mean, there were some I almost died twice almost died once on that trip, and almost died once in Europe. Like I almost died twice in South America. Like legitimate, I saw headlines, American goes to South America and doesn't leave,
Wait, okay. I have to ask. Kidnapping, falling off a cliff, what are we talking about?
Walking through the wrong property.
So one time I was woken up on a bus at 2 a.m. on the border of Colombia to a guy with a ski mask and a machine gun and told me to get off the bus, said, come here. You just said that. I forgot about that. That was...
You forgot about that? Oh, that's right.
That little thing. Yeah. It turned out he was special forces looking for, drugs and other stuff on the bus. He wasn't, but I didn't know. Am I about to be kidnapped by the cartel? I mean, so you wake up and like, huh, what are you doing here? Hola, me llamo Craig.
No tango drugs.
Right. But, and then, I got lost in Patagonia, and I was backpacking with a buddy and we got lost and like, oh my God, and then I got trapped on an 18,000 foot peak in Peru, Mount Urus, and it was snowing and torrent, and we almost got stuck on the peak and had to fight our way through there. And I actually lost feeling in my feet for 6 months after that. So anyway, I know this isn't totally like the conversation we're about to go down, but it just reminded me of things. I mean, these are real life things, It's
absolutely the conversation, Craig, because the whole message of lessons from last time are the obstacles that we've experienced that have fueled the fire that created us into the people that we are, and what we learned in that past that we're able to apply moving forward. And you can't go, I did the Camino, 500-mile walk through Spain. It's nothing like hiking through Patagonia, but it's still an adventure and experience, and you run into obstacles. You have to figure stuff out, and it's incredible. So I think that's a huge part of your story. And I'm guessing, I was just sitting here thinking about okay, you left financial services, you have this really crazy adventure background, you get into First Franklin and you become a President's Club achiever and a really high producer. Why? Because people who get into the mortgage business don't always or necessarily matriculate into excellence or exceptional performance.
Okay, I'm jumping out of my skin. Here's why. Because I didn't know any better. All I knew how to do was go do that. I didn't have fear. Nothing was in my way. So again, I have found this in iterations of my career when I've taken on promotions and new roles. I didn't know any better other than to just go at it and do it right. And I didn't always know the answers, right? You just go. And that's why I think right out of the gate, I found success in that. And it complemented my personality.
Yeah, and
overcoming other loan officers and
Well, a lot of people struggle with the initiative they're required to go call on a mortgage branch, go meet, Kirk Faulkner and call on his loan officers. And you didn't. You just had no hesitancy. I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm going to do it. And that was the first step in overcoming obstacles to being successful in the mortgage biz.
There's my favorite quote, or one of my favorite quotes, there's so many, but one of my favorite ones is, all men die, but few men truly live. And so you strike me as one who decides, I'm just going to live. And everything's an adventure to you. You're kind of like me. And when somebody says, hey, do you want to? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like whatever it is you're about to say,
let's go.
I'm fully in, like, we're going to do this. So that's kind of part of it for you, right? You're like, this seems cool. Like, let's give this a shot, and everything's an adventure.
Yeah, and totally. And it's funny you say that. I mean, so my wife and I have this saying, and this is really, I'm pulling from my wife says that, just say yes. And that's coming because I've also had to pick up and move my family twice. When I moved from Portland to the Bay Area and took over a massive role, and then the Bay Area up here where I live now, which is El Dorado Hills. And again, so in those iterations of our moves, my wife's like, okay, just say yes. In regards to meeting new people and friends and plugging in and doing whatever is necessary. And I learned a lot from her in that sense. And I love that about her. And just going back again, I think having some of those roots of a desire to have adventure. And again, I'm not like coining this like I'm some, travel. I mean, this was, again, 20 years ago, but I think just having some of that root in there. And I appreciate this conversation because I think I forgot that, to be honest. I think I forgot it.
Well, it goes back to what your wife said. Even as a young person, you were willing to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully she was willing to say yes, when I asked her to go.
I was just going to say it takes, a good partner for a lot of that stuff to happen. Like I've told my wife a million times back in 2003 when I wanted to start this company, like that doesn't work unless she's like, yeah, let's do this. Like this makes sense. Cause she had to sacrifice more than I did. I got to live the adventure. She was at home raising 3 kids while I'm traveling around the country. And she still had to believe in it or it would not have worked. Like it would have stopped pretty immediately. So you can't just do that by yourself.
Well, and that's exactly what happened when this opportunity came up of like, okay, time to reinvent again, time to do it again. And it was my wife who said, this is absolutely what you're going to do. This is what you're meant to do. This is who you are.
Well, let's tell the foundational part to that story. Let's talk about your departure from First Franklin and where you went from there before we talk about the move to California
So I was First Franklin until the end. 2008 happened, or it was really 2007. And it's funny because I look back on those times, and this was history, right? I look back on this. This is history, and hey, we thought we were going to be fine. Why? Because while everybody else is going out of business, Merrill Lynch bought us. Nice. Merrill Lynch bought us. We're good. Until Merrill Lynch wasn't good. And then we got shut down because Merrill Lynch got absorbed and shut down. So then I found myself the first kind of very dramatic time in my life where I lost my job because the company, shut down. And then I originated for a little bit, and then I frankly just ran into Patrick Palmer one day at a farmer's market. And
sound familiar?
This is how easy things. Kirk, you can share. And this is how And here's something else for everybody. Life presents you some of the biggest opportunities in your life, and they could be the simplest, easiest things you could just brush away. You know, Patrick, I ran into Patrick and he's like, hey man, hey, I might have something you might be interested in. It was that simple. That statement right there. I could have been like, yeah, cool. No, I'm originating right now. I think I'm just going to do that versus, hey, I'm always open to a conversation. That once again changed the complete course of my life.
Yeah, it's so interesting. There's so many parts of my life that I can go, yeah, I knew that was the case. For some reason, I just felt it. When we moved up here from California, I saw the exit that said Camas, and I'm like, I don't know why, but that just feels right, right? Later on, I moved to Camas. I run into this guy at a farmer's market, hilarious, and I'm like, there's just something there. Like there's something here in my future. And if you accept these things and if you move in the right direction as consistently as you can, you start to notice like, oh, that's going to lead to something. And you just kind of know it. But it starts with first saying yes to those things and then looking for them, right?
Yeah. And you have to have, and again, this is where your self-awareness comes in, because you have to be willing to then step forward. And by the way, the first step is motivating. It's fun. It's energizing. It's exciting. But that third, fourth, and fifth step, that's hard. It's cold. That's where struggle comes in. That's where self-doubt comes in. Easy to pivot, change course, quit, you know, and that's, you know.
Or change your narrative into a completely negative one where all you do is now, you had such energy and enthusiasm about this new endeavor. Now you've had a couple of bumps in the road. You got your nose bloodied a couple times and now you're complaining about everything.
Everything's wrong. It's everybody else's fault, right? And so that's where our, you know, that, and that's why it's so critical that we have to have our self-awareness in every other part of it. And like, because we have to get through that. And by the way, there's not a destination. You know, we treat things like a destination. Once I get there, once I get this volume, once I make this money, it's not a destination. And so it's that ability to persevere, just persevere, endure.
That's so powerful, Greg. So many people put this false hope in a certain destination. Oh, when I get promoted to a certain title, or when I make a certain amount of money, or man, when I can finally get that Beamer or that house on the hill, or whatever it is that people attach meaning to. And then they get there and they realize, oh crap, this didn't fulfill or satisfy. And it's because there is no finish line until you're dead. And even then, if you're a person of faith or something like that, but as far as this physical life is concerned, there is no destination. It's just one adventure after the next until all your adventures are over, here and now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and especially, you know, with my coaching, I just tell people like, look, and part of that, and for everything you just said, plus you set this goal. And when you tie your success to this desired future result, once you get there, everything you just said, including, because you also just created a new goal. And so you just, you forget about it. You just sort of like, cool, here's a high five and you move on. So, you know, so you have these little moments that aren't gratifying because, you know, also you get that great house and to your point, but then also you get it and you're in it and a week later, you're just back to normal life again in your new great house.
With a broken dishwasher.
with normal life stuff, you know? So anyway, it's all good. It's just, we need to frame it and understand it and filter it a certain way to really bring, I think that to your point, fulfillment as we go. And that's where perseverance comes in. That's where strength comes in. I think, you know, that's where the keep going comes in because it does get hard, as we all know.
So Patrick had a pretty big role for you. Did you start at a big role at that company or did you build into that? Were you kind of coming in at an entry level kind of a spot when you went to work with him?
Yeah. And that's a pivotal question, right? Because, okay, so Patrick hired me to be an AE. This is just 2008, September 2008. Pinnacle just bought Alpine Mortgage, which is Patrick's retail company. Pinnacle was going to do wholesale. They hired me to be a wholesale AE. I said, yeah, cool. I'll give it a shot. I'm not sure if the AE role is going to live on, but I'm going to give it one more shot. Cool. Let's go. And then the operation hadn't even been created yet. So I got out in front, but I recognized something. I recognized this opportunity at that time where you have a lot of brokers who are getting hurt by the market that want to saddle up with a company. And I recognized that because that was my community, that was my audience. And so I said, hey, can I bring branches on and turn them into P&L branches with us? What we then called affiliate branches or, you know, not net branches, but affiliate branches, right? And he said, yeah, absolutely, we can do that. I said, great. And that was another defining moment in my career. So I went to work. I was calling on them as wholesale, as an AE. Said, hey, I have this opportunity if you're interested. Some said, yeah, I am interested. Great, let's do it. No, I want to stay as a broker. Great, let's stay that way. And so then I started doing it, and I was the first one in the company that started. So I started driving and creating this channel, this P&L branch channel that didn't exist. And in the marketplace, it barely existed. I think you had American Pacific Mortgage doing it, kind of Sierra Pacific Mortgage, but it was not a prevalent thing. In fact, really distributed retail was born post 2008 into what it is today, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So I like to believe I was a pioneer in that space.
Well, you clearly were, because forward-thinking mortgage professionals were already thinking that way. You're right, it didn't exist yet, or it was just very, very minimal in its existence. But forward-thinking mortgage professionals were thinking, wait a minute, there's an opportunity beyond just, getting a paycheck and getting commission. There's an opportunity to manage P&L and really be responsible for outcomes and benefit from that.
Okay.
And good.
I have to jump in. Sorry. This is a huge moment in this podcast. So you are the best employee that anybody can hope for, right? The type of employee you were at that point. You decided you were hired to do a job, and a lot of employees' mentality is, I'm going to do the job they hired me to do because that's what they hired me to do, right? I'm going to go do that, and then I'll do it the best I can, right? That is one type of employee. The other type goes, hey, I know you hired me to do this job, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to crush it for you. But also, I think you might be missing something bigger than this. Would you mind if I stepped into this thing and made it awesome? And for every business owner listening right now, that's our dream, right? Is that somebody walks in and says, I know that I might be able to bring more value than I can bring, and let me just do that for you. It's just a dream. But it's not normal. That's a unique aspect.
Really, really insightful. So I remember during those times, because like I said, and I was a President's Club AE for the wholesale, what they hired me to do. I recognized this opportunity, and I started bringing branches on. And again, because I didn't know any other than just to go do that and to do it organically. And then I realized also I got all these branches on board, and I realized, oh shoot, I've been hunting. I think I need to focus now on gathering and managing. And I remember I wrote a business plan, and I called it the Organic Growth Business Plan. And I basically translated, okay, I then redefined my job through this business plan, saying, and now that I brought these branches on, I need to now lead them, help grow their branch, help them run their P&L, help them be better, invest in their success. And again, this was simply out of recognizing, hey, I think there's a thing here that needs attention. I will quarterback this because it's not only good for me, it's going to be good for others. And that's where I really translated now from going into sales into management. That was part of that. That was another defining moment, if we're talking about defining moments now.
But again, that's every other AE. I can remember for our sales meeting, they're like, have your business plan ready by the sales meeting. And every AE was like, frick, are you serious? We have to create a business. This is so stupid. You weren't given a project to create a business plan. You went, I'm going to go create this because I think it needs to be done. So this wasn't something that was given to you as a task. It was something that you rose up and said, I think we can grow. This is entrepreneur thinking. As an employee thinking like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, this was not asked upon me. This was me. And this is me not doing a business plan in December to satisfy my boss. At 99% of business plans are done.
Right.
So this is recognized an opportunity.
You also worked with an incredibly talented group of other AEs that were attracted to the whole business model that was created there. I mean, Julie Peterson and Kristen DeBishop, and there was assembled kind of a who's who of AEs in the Portland, Vancouver area. It was really extraordinary.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I've had such great times throughout my career. My first Franklin days were awesome, working with Tracy Ann and, so many great people, Brant and so many others. And the pinnacle time. And then seeing how we all evolved, I think is probably the right word, into that role.
I just think about hearing about your journey, knowing that when I competed against you as an AE, it sucked. I will tell you, because we have similar characteristics in that we become friends with people we meet because we collect friends. We love everybody. And so if you were just there, they would talk about you in a way that people would talk about me. And it's like, dang it. That's my niche. You're stealing my niche. But watching your career, I go back to so many things are basketball references for me. Steph Curry wasn't the starting point guard. They had to eliminate their rock star to give him a chance to then go out there and thrive. And if you followed his early career, it wasn't, his trajectory was not, like this. And so your trajectory did the same thing, where you just stepped into it and said, I'm going to do this, let's make it happen, and then climbed. So you didn't go from AE to basically running a company, overnight or by accident. You did it on purpose, but you didn't do it for you. You did it because you thought the company could do better if you just implemented some different things.
Yeah. Well, and I tell people this, it's like, hey, look, hey, great job. You recognize a problem. Good job. What's the solution? Right. There's management 101, right? But yeah, you just recognize something and hey, I think this is good for me. If it's good for me, it's going to be good for the rest of the company. How about I take the initiative and quarterback this? And there was iterations beyond that then that I developed for the company that had nothing to do. Well, in fact, back then, this is probably 2009, developing our entire website infrastructure that we didn't really have for our internal users. It wasn't quite an intranet, but it was an interface with the website that, this is 2009, didn't really exist. I had to build it from scratch. I said, I will do this. I don't know anything about websites. I just know what I want. I know what my people want. Mm-hmm. So I quarterbacked it and I ran that for the entire company.
When leadership sees somebody with that mindset, it's extraordinary. Whether you're Patrick Palmer running Alpine or later selling to Robert Bo'Le'Ard and the whole Pinnacle move, you can't be in a position like Robert was in and not just thrive on people like you who show up and find problems that Robert may or may not have even seen, or opportunities that he may or may not have even seen because he's too busy running a company. He's dealing with warehouse lines. He's dealing with growth that was kind of extraordinary at that time. And then along comes a guy like Craig who sees opportunity and puts a plan together to achieve it. Not just, hey, wouldn't it be great if we offered this loan program or whatever? Yeah, get us a Manny Home construction loan. That'd be really great. No, let's come up with ideas that have merit and meaning and value and contribute to the success of others. And that's just really, you can't ask for more than that when you're running a company to have somebody come in and take that kind of initiative.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And my mindset was always, I'm a business partner. That's what I called myself to my branches. I'm not your AE. I'm not your whatever. I'm your business partner. Mm-hmm. And so right out of the gate, you're setting the table with the right, philosophy. And that was how I always viewed. So as a business partner, this is what I'm recognizing. This is what I can do. Here's where my skills, and it's an opportunity for me to learn, so I looked forward to doing these things. And the other thing is in to your point, and especially, and I want people who are listening to this, especially younger in their career, this creates visibility. And I was creating visibility for myself. This was by design too. I was creating visibility because I also wanted to grow my career. And so this helped lead me then into going from an AE. Then I was promoted into being the regional sales manager for the Northwest, and and then running it, then running from that level. And then ultimately when I got tapped by Robert Bo'Le'Ard, famous words, I went up to Dave Strickland, who is, Robert's VP, and said, hey, Dave, I just want to make sure my goals are aligned with your goals. And there's another famous statement right there. That sentence right there, again, changed the entire course of my life.
That had to be music to Strickland's ears.
I think he was, yes, it was, but it was sort of like, I don't think he was thinking of it yet. So I brought that up. He said, yeah, let's talk about that. So we talked about that. So then he's like, our wholesale channel is kind of fledgling. Maybe you should take that over. And I didn't really want to do that, but I said, yeah, I'm not going to turn down the opportunity. And then it translated more into, actually, we need someone to take over the Bay Area P&L channel, because that's also, we want to peel that off the wholesale channel. How about you take that over? And that was it. And here's something else. This is so much why I love my wife. I said, honey, Dave just offered me a promotion, and at Pinnacle, and at the time, this is like going from the minors to the majors. He just offered me the vice president role to take over the Bay Area. She's like, no way. I said, yeah, but that means we are moving from Lake Oswego, both of our families, and moving to the Bay Area. So we started going through all the what ifs for 2 minutes. And she said, hold on a second. When have we ever played it safe? F it. let's do it. And we put our chips on the table. And that's how that decision was made.
Okay.
That's how we picked up our lives.
I have a question though, because this is important to the story for anybody that knows the Northwest. What month did you bring this up?
April.
Yeah, of course she said yes. April, you've dealt with 6 months of clouds. I mean, not to take away from her being willing, but if I ask my wife in April, do you want to move every year? She's like, yeah, let's get out of here. So you went from clouds to sun in that month. I mean, still she's awesome.
Stars aligned a certain way, right?
Still she's awesome, but yeah, that's hilarious.
And you moved down to the Roseville area, yeah?
No, I moved to Danville, California.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Where I'm
yeah, so
from.
you know, some of the most expensive real estate, you know, in the world. I, move from, Lake Oswego, Portland into Danville. I'm like, oh crap. I don't know if I did all my homework for how much this is going to cost. But you do it. And so then I took over. So then what was cool, and this is really where I developed my leadership voice, because what I took over, frankly, was kind of a box of broken pieces. Like here's the skeleton operation. You need to build it up. Here's all the branches, and the branches were great. Loved my branch managers, still love them all, right? And the operation was coming off a wholesale operation, so it was a little bit bigger. It was a little bit more steps. It was a little clunkier, and I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying it was not the streamlined operation that I wanted. And so as I took it over, there is no playbook. There's another thing for everybody. You get a promotion or you do whatever, and you take something over and you think, okay, I've got a map. There is no map. There is no playbook. And when I got there thinking, all right, I'm going to start from a level 7 and take it to a 10. No. I realized, no, I got to go back to like 2. And so in that moment, that struggle, that enormity, that pressure, I just moved my family here. Holy crap. And again, like we were talking about earlier, very excited, motivating. And then within 3 months, oh crap, what have I gotten myself into? The struggle, the pain, the enormity, the stress, the pressure. And that's where I developed my leadership voice. And that was another defining moment. And it was some of the best times in my career, because how I was able to rise out of that, rebuild our operation. And I famously said, after I rebuilt it, defying other cynics about you can't do it like that, I said, yes, I can. And I did it. And I remember I increased the velocity of loans by like 3 to 4 business days, purely out of fixing the production of that loan, not hiring people. In fact, I was able to do more with less because I adapted to technology. I got rid of waste, and waste is in those 2 to 3 minute cycles, not 20 minutes. I got rid of all those 2 to 5 minute things. Do this, do that. No, we don't have to do any of that. You are empowered to make that decision.
Well, most people buy a house because of location. It fits their school requirements, or it fits the beauty of the setting that they want. And the view from the back deck is perfect. But when you buy that house and you find out that some of the guts just aren't there, you have a choice. You can give up your dream of where you want to live, or you can strip it down to studs and you can rebuild it in a way that actually will make it a wonderful, efficient, effective place to live. And sometimes you have to do that. It sounds like that's kind of what your project was. Maybe not down to studs, but mad respect to everybody who buys a house and does all the work. You can't do all the work yourself, but a lot of people, because that is hard. That is hard. And there's a grind in that, but yeah.
I don't know if you know much about Deming, W. Edwards Deming. He's one of my favorite authors. He actually was the guy that made Japanese car manufacturers what they are. And so a lot of the things you're describing are some of the skills that he talks about, which is he went in and said, stop putting posters up saying how many days since your last defect, just fix the defects. Like his whole thing was, you're spending so much money on QA because you suck at the process. So let's take every minute of the process and make it awesome. It's called Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. That was his concept. And you look at it and go, okay, let's just fix the system. The system will be better. Let's not throw money or people at it. Let's go in and dissect it and then make it awesome. And then that's going to lead to a better result. Now we're a better operation.
I love it. And I love Kaizen. So one thing I went around, lately was I was asking everybody, hey, what's your theme of the year? What's your word? What's your theme? Right. And there's a reason for this. And Justin Andrews, everyone knows Juice, right? His was Kaizen. I said, I love that. I absolutely love that, because we can, and this is what I focus on from coaching. This is what I learned from leadership. We don't make this dramatic overhaul at once. And we don't have to do that anyway. Even going back to, when I took over the Bear and I was building up that operation, for example, I didn't do this dramatic overhaul because you can't just stop the manufacturing line, retune it, and start it again. We got to fund loans. It's Kaizen. It's small incremental shifts focused on a bigger picture. And we're going to make these shifts along the way. And the process is going to hold everybody accountable to it so that we can focus on leading the people through it.
I want to dial in on that one thing real fast too. That word. This is the first year ever that I've heard so many people talk about what's your word for the year. I was on a call yesterday. A buddy of mine's like, what is his word is, it is chosen. Like he feels chosen this year. Like
I know who that is because I had the same conversation with him.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. I've never chosen.
Great word, by the way.
Yeah. I had a year that was a difficult year, and I had a rock. I got at a Building Champions thing. And the rock, they told you to write something on each side of the rock. And I wrote love on one side and conquer on the other. And so every day I would look at it and go, what do I need to do today? Not that you don't always need to love, but sometimes you got to kick butt. Like sometimes I need to just conquer. And so I would literally switch my rock over and it would change my day. And so I love that you said, that Juice has got the word Kaizen, because we do need to pick a word because it themes it for us, right? Doesn't that kind of, if you look at it, you go, okay, there it is. It's writing on your mirror, in your bathroom so that you stare at something every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just for the audience, the reason why the theme matters is because when you establish a theme, your brain is already now making decisions on your behalf before you get to the point of making a decision. Because then we enter into decision fatigue and all, I got to go to the gym. If every single day you have to say to yourself, I got to go to the gym, I got to go to the gym, you're going to muscle through it. You're not going to be able to, get there. If your theme is, I am healthy, well, then you've already made the decision because this is what a healthy person does. If your theme is Kaizen or chosen, you're already making those decisions. Your brain is already wiring that way. So
if you are watching this podcast and you're in the mortgage industry and you haven't checked out the Knowledge Coop, you definitely need to dive into the Knowledge Coop. In there, you will find content and community that will help you grow as an individual by learning everything there is to know about the mortgage industry. If you think you know everything, just dive in and take some classes because there's always something more you can learn. To be successful in this business, you've got to continually learn. In addition, if you're a company and you want to teach your people in your own environment, we've got that in the Knowledge Coop Enterprise Services. So reach out to us, check out knowledgecoop.com, definitely join Coop Plus. Let's get back to the podcast. So you're climbing up, things are going great. There are some things in life we don't control, right? So a lot of that stuff that we've talked about so far is the controllable, right? You went into the office and went, I will control my destiny. I will create, I will be the employee that they need me to be. I will be the employee, my people that, that I lead need me to be. So you can build that, right? And control a big part of that. One of the things I hate in life is when I can't control something. And so I've struggled through lack of control because when I don't control something, I kind of freak out, as I learned in 2020. Let's talk about some uncontrollable items in your world. As you're growing that business, things are going awesome. What happens?
Well, so at this time, then we get bought by Finance of America. Can't control that. Then I find myself at this quote unquote pinnacle of my career, right? No pun intended. And then at the same time, okay, now we got Finance of America coming in. We got this East Coast group. We got new leadership. And as that started developing, now this was opportunity to take over the Folsom operation, which, was a couple hours away from the Bay Area. So then I took that over, merged it together. And that was then the moment again where I said, okay, I know I just moved us to the Bay Area. We got to do it one more time because the Bay Area isn't realistic to just move into and live. Let's do it one more time. So we moved to El Dorado Hills. So then I went through another iteration of now I have to combine operations, combine management, build culture again, and go into something again that was different. I just built a really streamlined operation. Now it's taking over another kind of bloated operation. And now I got to streamline that. And now I got to be that guy. And I had to trim down staff. And I had to lay off almost 30 people, maybe more throughout that I have no words. I got up in front of I had tears coming down my eyes as I'm addressing the staff, and I know that's callous because I wasn't the one who lost my job, but the impact is so dramatic and, it was horrible. Right. And so then built that up, got past those months. This is 2018 to give perspective. That was a tough year. 2018 was a rough year. but we position to protect and we position to maximize. And so what I was going to work was, okay, I got to position to protect first. I got to make this operation right. I got to make the branches right. I got to make all that right so we can thrive as a business coming off of it. And by doing that, now I'm going to position us to maximize on, I don't know what, on whatever the opportunity is going to be. This is now 2019, which was a great year. Relatively, it was probably one of the best years in mortgage because it was a normal great year.
The only one.
What an incredible, I don't want to miss this, Craig, because you talk about 18 and how rough it was. And you talk about the fact that because it was a rough year, volumes were down, it gave you the bandwidth to prepare for what was coming. Because the one thing we know for certain about the mortgage business is it's going to do this. Right. So when you're here, you can either wring your hands and complain and moan and wonder if maybe you should get your resume together, or you can prepare for when that market turns, which is kind of what we've been talking a lot about with people here as we kind of work our way through 2023 and head into 24 with hopes and ideas that this market's turning. And if it is, we just don't know when. But what a great lesson in preparation to take that bandwidth that you had and prepare for 19, and then 19 showed up and you were ready for it.
I was positioned to maximize. And by the way, it wasn't just market. It was also, I had this new thing called Finance of America on top of us. So not only was I positioning at a market standpoint, I also had this company now that was completely different. And to your point, I didn't know. I was getting my resume together because all of a sudden I found myself, I'm now leading this, but now all of a sudden I'm interviewing for my job again, or whatever job that's going to be. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. I just moved my family, you know? So, and I remember, you know, with my inner circle of key, you know, people, you know, within the company that, you know, I love and trust and, you know, whatnot. And I remember standing up at one point and said, because everyone's like, I don't know, do we stay? Do we go? Do we, you know, that whole thing. I said, okay, this is me. I cannot be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Neither can you. And I'm saying this to the entire audience. You cannot be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Doesn't work that way. I am making a decision that I am all in. Now, by the way, I am all in and I'm working my butt off to make this as great as possible. And if you guys align with me, then let's all be all in, because plan A is we're going to make this as great as possible. But if plan B does have to happen because the company does whatever the company's going to do and we have to make a change, then at least we're aligned. But plan A is I am all in. I am not doing 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so that, I think, helped those around me say the same thing. Okay, I'm all in too. Great. Let's make it great because we want to make this company great. We want to be great. Let's have some fun. And that, I think, helped solidify our direction. Again, this is 2019. So we're positioned to maximize. We are aligned. Operations going good. We've done all the heavy lifting from 2018. We did it. We didn't wait for it. We did it then. And then what happens? COVID happens. And here we go again, right? Because you guys remember the beginning of COVID, those in the mortgage business, you know, with all the margin spreads and the secondary markets versus the capital markets. And, you know, I mean, it was ugly. It almost shut down every company, you know, margin calls and shorting the bonds and all the stuff, right? But then what came out of that was the greatest run in mortgage history. And we were positioned as a company, and I was positioned in my role, and I positioned our region as such to absolutely capitalize on that run. And that was awesome. It was awesome.
But there was if memory serves, there was a curveball that came your way personally that disrupted your momentum.
Yeah. And then we get through, you know, it's September 2021. I'm now at this point, I'm now running all production for the Western United States. I had 5 job titles within 1 week, you know, during that time. Give you a hint of interviewing for my job. Anyway, September 2021, we just get back from President's Club. It's absolutely, you know, great. I've got an amazing community of leaders around me that I've been, you know, working with and developing for so long. And I've literally never felt better about, you know, my role and my leadership and my voice and my confidence in the company and everything else. And then I find out I had stage 3 cancer. And as you can relate, I'm sure, when I remember getting that information, my wife and I were sitting in the doc, and this is a Monday, you know, and, you know, I'm getting, and I just start shaking, right? I start shaking. My wife has to put her hand on me. You know, doctor says, hey, we found a mass. We're 99% sure that's cancer. What? Like, that's not me. What? That's somebody else. So my wife and I go home, and, you know, our then 11-year-old daughter comes home, and we're holding on to this information, and we can't tell her, And it was everything I could do to keep myself off the computer to get my affairs in order, not to research it. It was, and I remember looking at my wife and my daughter saying, I can't leave you. I can't leave you. And for 2 days, I just thought I was going to die. That's all. I just had this darkness over me. I'm going to die. And then I got a call from my then boss, 𝗪𝗏, who also my friend, who's the COO of the company. And, you know, just normal. Hey, Craig, how you doing? Hey, man, what's up? You know, just, you know, hey, Steve, I have cancer. And then, you know, that took him back, and then we started talking about it. And then, you know, he gave me 2 pieces of information. He's like, you know, based on what you're telling me, I actually, you know, I have some family history with this. And from what I know, it's slow growing and it's treatable. And that right there gave me hope. And this is where I love using this as an example, because, you know, the whole, like, hope is not a strategy. Bullshit.
Unless it is.
But it's not a tactic. And that hope, now it's a leader's job to provide hope. It's a salesperson's job to provide hope. And we do that through vision and strategy and execution, all the things, right? So anyway, so that was, you know, and then I started you know, so that helped me lift up. And then, and I offer this, and Kirk, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I'm sure, like, you know, I mean, I talk to people, you know, hey, so-and-so got, you know, diagnosis, or, you know, said, I mean, I can give you all the advice in the world, at least what I experienced, and, you know, between chicken noodle soup and wearing gloves and, you know, all this other stuff, right? What I say is, you have to go into it with a specific mindset, not a general mindset. Hey, I'm just going to be positive. We're going to be okay. That, I get it. Like, do that. But my specific mindset was endurance. I am going to endure this. I just have to get through treatment, because I have a belief that I'll be on the other side of this treatment fine, no problem. So my only focus, it wasn't on cancer. I didn't have cancer. There is a cancer. I just have to get through treatment. And that was my specific mindset. And that's what I offer as, you know, if that works, you know, for somebody, but be specific about it. And that really helped me get through. So yeah, I mean, I had 6 months of chemo, and then chemo and radiation. And I worked full time. And by the way, this is now 2022, where the market is now starting to tank, and I'm on chemo, and the company's starting to, like, erode. And then I start losing some branches. And then I'm like, oh my God, what has happened? I'm in the car driving to radiation as I'm getting calls from, you know, and trying to lead and manage, and this guy's going to resign, and, you know, because signing bonuses and all this other stuff out there. I'm in the radiation machine, and that's all I can think about, not my health. All I can think about is my job and work.
Well, I love what you said, Craig, about the way you approach cancer. To me, every time I played football, which was most of my youth, I lined up across from a nose guard. I was a center. And I knew 2 things. I could not let him win any encounter, and it was going to last 4 quarters. So going into cancer, I had 2 things in my mind. I will not lose this fight, and I don't care how long it takes.
Yeah.
And your words just resonate, man. They're so profoundly true that you have to find that grit. When the C word is used about you, it is disbelief. No, that's the sad story I hear about other people. It can't be me. And then when you finally realize it is, it turns into, it needs to, at least I think, and I agree with you, it needs to turn into this almost battle mindset. Okay, we're going to war, and I'm not losing. And you can't always predict that. And some really fierce people have battled cancer and lost. But I think if you don't go into that mindset, you kind of start out in a losing posture.
Yeah. And exactly. And, you know, and this is where, you know, like I said, I had to not learn, that's not the right word. I had to really lean on my wife and my daughter and let people help me. Because I've always been the leader. I've always been the guy doing that for others. And I had to let them help me. I had to let my friends help me. I had to be vulnerable. I had to let my guard down a little bit, you know? And there's such power in that, in meaningful relationships. And so I really went into it. I'm going to be open to this. Now, what was cathartic for me through this is because I had this leadership role and I was visible in the company as, you know, as a leader in the company. And I said, you know, I mean, I wasn't on social media, so nobody knew because I didn't promote it on social media. I wasn't doing that. But within the company, hey guys, this is what I got. And of course, people start finding out. And I would say, you can ask me whatever question you want. And I want to hear your opinion on this. I got asked a lot, like, so what does it feel like to be on chemo? Did you ever get asked that question?
My treatment was different, but yes, I got asked that all the time, to the point where I started answering on social media. I remember when Facebook used to do notes. I would get so many people calling or texting or asking me what was going on. I just started creating notes, and I would give updates every, I don't know, month or two about how I was doing and what was going on, because people had a genuine concern and curiosity. But yeah, they wanted to know what it felt like. And my treatment lasted just over 3 years. Different than chemo and radiation. So what you went through was brutal. Mine was just a marathon for 3 years, but people were fascinated by it and they wanted to understand it. And of course, there was an awkwardness in asking that question. They just really don't know what you're willing to talk about. But
you know, and it's funny you bring up the awkwardness. I actually found myself quite often like trying to make them feel better.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. You know, I would start
making light of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then here's another piece of advice for everybody listening. If you hear someone that has cancer, the first response out of your mouth should not be, oh yeah, my uncle had that. Yeah, he died from it, but you'll be fine.
Oh, geez.
That's probably good advice.
Yeah.
That happens so much. That happens a lot.
Three of the most profound people in my life came to me and they just called me up and they said almost the same thing, each one of them. They said, dude, this sucks. I love you. And if you need anything, I'm here for you.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if I could write a script for somebody, that was pretty perfect.
And I would tell people, like, it's okay. You can say whatever you want. It's okay. I got you. You know, like, because I know people can be uncomfortable to ask, and you know,
Craig, when we were chatting before we hit record and started this process, you said something. We were talking about life and it throws curveballs and stuff happens. And you said, positive or negative, it's just the meaning you give it, whatever it is. This is a quote from you. Positive or negative, it's just the meaning you give it. And we talked a little bit about that Stoic philosophy of the obstacle is the way. Yeah. Never is that mindset more necessary than when you face a diagnosis like cancer. But it's not just your cancer experience where you live that out. This is just your mindset.
Yeah, and I read that. I think I read that in The Gap and the Gain, or maybe I can't remember where I heard that, but it really it hit me hard. Because here's the thing, because it gives you the ultimate control to shape your past. And Ken, it gives you control.
Yeah.
Because cancer sucks. And by the way, this ain't about fuzzy bunnies and unicorns and namaste and, you know, everything's going to be just fine. It sucked. And it's okay that it sucks. But as I reflect, I give it a positive meaning. And that's really important. And for these various things that we've talked about. And this is powerful for everybody out there, because, and another way to frame it is this: it's not what happened, it's how you make sense of it that matters.
I grew to refer to my cancer experience as my midterm exam, because my diagnosis came right around my 50th birthday, just before. So I called it my midterm exam. It was my chance to go through something difficult and learn a little bit more about Kirk and what Kirk, you know, what kind of grit he had, what kind of resolve he had, what he was willing to do to try to overcome. And I don't want to do it again. I'd really like to not ever experience that again, but I have no regrets. Absolutely none.
I love how you frame that. And I feel the same way. Like that's why I have to be careful a little bit sometimes saying this, because I'm not saying it was easy and it was great. And woohoo, you know, no, it sucked. I don't want to do it again. But I am so proud that I did do it, and you know, I'm proud that I was able to get through it. I'm proud of those around me. I'm you know, and I paid attention, you know, and I like how you frame it, and I feel the same way, you know, and so
I want to ask you, because I have a friend who, is going through this, and as kids, Advice for somebody. I mean, you didn't tell her right away.
Mm-hmm.
How do you say that?
Oh, brother, now you're gonna get me. She was 11, so we didn't tell her until a week. No, we didn't tell her until, so September was the diagnosis. November 17th is when I started treatment. We didn't tell her until like 2 days prior. So we held on to this the entire time. We told her, so we referred to chemo as medicine. I just have to go in and take my medicine and we will be fine. We're going to get through this, you know, and we just framed it as medicine, you know, and we didn't say much. We let her ask questions. Because here's the thing. My parents didn't have cancer when I was growing up. My wife's parents didn't have cancer when she was growing up. So we can't begin to think about understanding what she's now going through with her daddy having cancer, you know. So we really tried to keep it simple. We didn't, and we called it medicine, you know, and we let her ask questions. And then, you know, but I wore my chemo for 3 days. So I'd go in, I'd get my infusion, and then I'd wear a fanny pack with it plugged in right here. I go in on a Monday to Wednesday. So she would see the fanny pack, you know, and she would see me. And, you know, but like, you know, I was just open.
You had the port, right? You had
I had the port, yeah.
So you can't hide that completely.
I never, like, this probably sounds weird, but like, you know, I mean, it's not like I was by the pool with my shirt off and you could see the chemo hooked up, right? So she never saw it, you know, but she would ask questions every now and then. She's like, so what does it feel like? And I'd answer, what is that? You know, she could see like the tube kind of sticking out or something like that, you know? And so the very first day of my chemo, day one of my chemo, after I went right from the hospital to her volleyball game.
Whoa.
Wearing my fanny pack, you know? And, you know, you live as much life as you can through that, you know, and, you know, you do you, right? And then Ken, you know, it's a hard thing to answer. And I think, and then as time developed, she got comfortable with it. You know, we would talk a little bit more about it, you know, it took about 2 years. And actually it was just recently, I was lying in bed with her and we were talking, and then we started having a much more real conversation. She was able to talk about it. It took her 2 years to talk about it. And then we, you know, what was that like, Sid, to have your dad on cancer? You know, what was that like? You know, I mean, what did your friends say? You know, so we got a little deeper, and I'm so happy that she was open. And you know, for a long time, we couldn't talk about it, you know, the C word, right? Like Kurt, like, I mean, so, it's challenging. It's challenging. I don't know if I have a great answer for that, you know?
I think you did. I think you said you have to let them walk through it. They're their own person. They've got to walk through it, and you got to kind of be there for them as they do, but not try to force a understanding on them that they can't possibly have.
Yeah. And this was really my wife being so in tune, you know, like we have to let her, you know, we had to let her feel the feels. I think that's another really important thing. We got to let her feel what she's feeling and not shut it down. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You know, it's okay. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And we don't do that. You gotta let her feel it. You gotta let her ask questions. You gotta let her be sad.
Everything in your life, Craig, seems to have this purposeful progression to it. I won't call it a plan because some things you can't anticipate, like the sale of Finance of America and all that stuff, or the closing down of Finance of America. The transition, you know, Palmer selling to Bo'Le'Ard, you can't predict that, although you came in right after that had been completed.
Yeah.
You've made another recent transition into coaching. So I want to, you know, before we run out of time, I definitely want to talk about how all of this incredible experience, including cancer, led into this decision to get into coaching, and your experience with coaching prior to becoming one, and then kind of what your vision is for this.
Yeah. So, you know, so I get over cancer, right? I finished treatment in May, and the third part of my treatment was supposed to be surgery, go and remove the tumor. This was a new protocol. I went through UC Davis. They said, hey, treatment worked. We can opt out of surgery, and then we're just gonna do a watch and see, and you come in and get checked, you know, a lot. Are you cool with that? I said, absolutely. I don't want surgery. And, you know, so that was July.
And if you can, Craig, remind people what kind of cancer you had.
Oh, sorry. It was stage 3 colon cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
So surgery would have been a bit invasive.
It would have been a bit invasive. Didn't want that. So that was July, which is kind of where we mark, okay, treatment was over. 6 weeks later, I lost my job because they shut the company down. They didn't want to face the headwinds ahead. So now I found myself in a really dark place, a really dark place. That I was hurt. I got hurt. I got injured. That was harder for me than cancer.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people, that takes them back a little bit. That was harder for me because now, again, here I am. I got my family. You know, I mean, I'm 45, 46, however old I was. I'm 47 now. And now I'm out of a job. And the way the market is turned, the market is sour. It's not like, you know, someone in my role is just being readily hired at the moment, you know? So, so there were some iterations during that time, and I ushered a lot of my volume to a company, and then, you know, some changes happened there. And so then I'm going to a startup company for a minute. I'm like, oh, I did this before at Pinnacle. Let me do it again. But that company did not work out well. You know, it was not a good situation. So, and again, it was kind of going back to the, you know, that me feeling like I have no vision here. I can't, this is not going to work. So it was like April 11th, I parted ways with that company. And April 12th, I was eyes down, pen on paper, business planning. This is what I'm going to do. And my wife sat there and said, I don't know what else you need in your life to listen to say, this is what you're meant to do. And I was eyes down, pen on paper, business planning, this coaching company. Ken, I saw you ran it, you know, in Scottsdale with Don and Gino, like 3 weeks later. Remember, we were joking. I'm like, I've been a coach for like, I think I'm going on 7 days now.
Yep.
And it was all grit, faith in myself, faith in this path. It was perseverance. I didn't look at other options. And I've been recruited by a couple other companies. I turned them down. I sought out my mentors, Dave Savage, Bill Dallas, others, Don and Gino. You know, we were talking, Ken, you and I had a really great conversation when we were down there.
Yeah.
And I was just in, this is what I am supposed to do. Because this is what I've always done as a leader, as a salesperson. And this is because I've always focused on helping others succeed. If I can help you succeed, that's going to help me succeed.
I love that you said that, Craig, and the way you said it, because the word I was going to use was, it was already intrinsic. Mm-hmm. It's such a natural progression because it already was true for you. And I also love the fact that you're describing your decision to do it sounds an awful lot like the conversation with the transition to Financial America, where you said to the troops, I can't be 1 foot in or 1 foot out. We're either all in together or, you know, and then if something bad happens, we'll be together. And you had that same conversation basically with yourself.
Yeah. Well, my wife.
And your wife, of course. Yeah. She's been, yeah.
Because there's no, by the way, there's no salary.
Yeah.
That doesn't come with this.
Yeah.
You know, there's no health.
No benefits. Yeah.
There's no benefits.
Yeah. 401k sucks, doesn't it?
Wait, I have to share some insight from this because you don't know this at all. You probably know this because you're smart like this, but we sat down in Scottsdale at a moment when I was trying to find somebody to run my company.
I remember.
And you tell me this story, and I'm like, I need to recruit this guy. Like, I need Craig running my company for me. This is before Kirk got on board, before Allison got on board. And I'm like, this guy could do everything. Like, he could do an amazing thing. And I thought about it so hard because you're perfect for it. And then I thought, this dude is so committed to this journey. Like, I could see it in you that you're like, no, I have firm belief that this is the way. And I didn't want to distract you or make you think of anything else, nor could I have. But I was like, I can't walk in front of this guy and trip him. Like, he is straight up committed to this way. And I believe in it. You had me as a believer. And I felt like I would have been doing you a disservice by even, you know, thinking about like, let's get this guy on here. And so I backed away because I saw it in your eyes, that determination.
That's so funny you say that, because I also, when you brought that up to me, my thought was, oh, wait, maybe I should hey, Ken, you know, I'll maybe take this into consideration, you know, if you want to talk further about it. And I also didn't, because I had made a decision to be firm. I'm going to, again, like my wife said, F it, let's just put our chips on the table and go. When have we ever played it safe? It was that same thing again.
Yeah.
You know, so I felt the same way. And I also didn't, because I didn't want to like create that like what if, or that, because then again, that's a 1 foot in, 1 foot
Right.
out, and then, you know, whatever. So,
Well, and when you were talking, I'm like, I want this guy to coach me. Like you have this, you figured it out. You've proven yourself on the battlefield. And so you now have something that people need. I didn't want to take that away from leaders that can learn from you. And so that was the other piece, is like, I would be damaging a bunch of people by selfishly bringing you over here, when there are people who need your story, and they need your tactics, and they need your strategies, and they need your advice, and they need your holding their hand sometimes through difficult times. You know, a lot of people get into coaching. When I started this company in 2003, a buddy of mine I was going to bring into the company at the time, he's like, no, I'm running this other company. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. It crashes, miserably crashes. He fails at his company and then becomes a life coach. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, coaching what? Like, I see people get into coaching and it's like, but you haven't done anything, right? Like, you have already done, you've been to the mountaintop, and you can bring people along. You can Sherpa people in some cases up to where you've already been.
yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, because I stand, my confidence stands on, I'm a career salesperson, manager, and leader who's always had a coaching narrative and mindset and all these key, you know, tactical things. I just happen to be a coach now, you know. And you know what, the other thing that was very solidifying for me is, as soon as I the first couple of people I told, my early adopter clients were all people who used to work for me. So I thought to myself, you used to work for me. I used to have to like manage you and lead you, and this could be difficult conversations. Now you're hiring me to be your coach. And one of the first things one of my first clients said to me is, Craig, I need you back in my life, because you haven't been there for the last 8 months since the company went down, you know? And so that was, you know, again, these were these signposts, and still are. I mean, it's not like I've arrived. I mean, I'm really happy and thankful that I'm now here this far into my journey, you know, and I love, and this is fulfilling, and this is my joy, purpose, and passion.
It's intrinsic.
Helping you succeed.
It's intrinsic.
It's built in. Yeah.
Yeah, you are a coach because you are a coach.
Yeah. And I put myself through the Neuro Leadership Institute because I am very fascinated in the neuroscience, you know, and so I put myself through some training, and, you know, I get asked like, how do you have all this content? I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I've been a voracious reader and listener for years. This has been my leadership voice. I pay attention. I got my MBA. I went through the Neuro Leadership. I mean, I have a desire to learn, you know, and it's intuitive, you know, and I enjoy it. And so,
well, Craig, we could go another full hour in this conversation.
4
It would be
hours,
extraordinary.
5
yeah.
maybe.
And
Yeah.
we
Has it
may
been
just
an
have to
hour?
have you.
I know.
Here's what I would like to do. Next time you're up in this area for whatever reason, we want to get you in the studio, because we'd love to go grab lunch with you, but we'd also love to do this face to face and maybe talk about, you know, where your company's going and what lessons you're learning as you go through that process. But for now, what is the name of your coaching company, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you? And by the way, when we're done with this podcast, we'll post a slide up with your contact information. But for now,
so the name of my company is Ascend Experience, experience with an X, because I'm too cool for the E.
Experience, love it.
Experience, Ascend Experience. My website is ascendxc.com, right? And, you know, find me on the socials. You know, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, and yeah, when you post it, you know, I got my email on there, and you know, whoever else. And I offer complimentary huddles, you know, just as, you know, hey, let's just get to know each other. And I offer private coaching, you know, the one-on-one stuff, you know, really for salespeople, managers, and leaders. And then I'm really excited about this masterclass I'm giving now. It's called your Success Foundations Masterclass. So I'm doing this as a private group for branches, and, you know, and it's had really dramatic results in helping, you know, within the branch. And I also offer it. There's a self-guided version that's coming out soon as well. And then you know, I got 7 speaking events right now, you know, listed, you know, for the next, you know, 30 days. So I'm really excited about that. And so, you know, I love it. I love what I do.
you know, Craig,
Proud of it, you know.
Ken's got a parting question for you coming up, but before we get to that, I just want to say thank you for being here, and I so resonate with what you had to say. It's just so great to have you on here and hear your story. Bits and pieces of I knew, but in total, I didn't know your whole journey. So really grateful for your candor, for your willingness to be vulnerable, and for the great story you told.
I love it, man. I'm honored. I'm grateful, and please, can we just continue this conversation?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
off camera and off mic as well. Like,
Yeah, we got a few notes.
we need to be more in touch more often.
Absolutely. All right, last question for you. You have the opportunity, knowing everything you've been through to this point, you have the opportunity to go back and meet with 12-year-old Craig Davis and give him one piece of advice based on everything you know right now. What piece of advice would you give 12-year-old you?
Eyes up. Keep your eyes up. Look down the road. Just keep going. It's okay. Eyes up. Have fun.
Love it.
That fits with your wife's philosophy of say yes.
Yep.
Say yes. Yeah.
That's great, buddy.
Dude.
That's just great.
We're going to be on stage together, I believe, down in Vegas for Momentum Builder. I'm really excited for that, and just to get more time with you. So, and I will see you also, I think, in Nashville with Don and Gino and the crew. So that's going to be super exciting too. If your wife wants to come out, that would be amazing, because my wife's going to be there. We're going to go take our daughter for her 21st over to Nashville. So it'd be cool for us to get dinner together.
Yeah, I want my wife to come on these things. Yeah, no, it'll be awesome. We'll talk offline. And it's funny you said Sherpa earlier.
Yeah.
That's going to be my role at Momentum Builder. So I created this little role. I'm going to come on, like, we're all climbing a mountain. All the speakers are guides. I'm going to be the Sherpa. I'm going to help carry the weight with you. And I'm just going to have little nuggets along the way that I'm going to interject throughout, stage times. Little 5-minute nuggets to help kind of guide, so.
That's a pretty killer metaphor.
I love it. Dude, Craig, thank you so much, man. This was a perfect conversation, and we look forward to more of these.
Absolutely. Thank you guys, and love being connected with you guys. So we'll continue.
Yep.